On December 21, 2025, the Supreme Court delivered a decision that will have far-reaching consequences for the nation. This ruling, which came after months of heated debate and anticipation, marks a pivotal moment in the ongoing conversation about gun rights and public safety in America. The eyes of the country were fixed on the highest court as justices weighed arguments from both sides, ultimately issuing a decision that will reshape the landscape of gun ownership for millions of Americans. For many, the news brought a mix of relief, concern, and uncertainty. Families, gun owners, and advocates on both sides of the issue tuned in to hear how the ruling would affect their daily lives and the future of gun regulation in the United States. In a landmark ruling, the court struck down a major gun policy, impacting an estimated 65 million gun owners nationwide. The decision specifically targeted long-standing permit requirements, which have been a cornerstone of state-level gun control for decades. By overturning these regulations, the court has fundamentally altered the way Americans can access firearms. This is a seismic event in the ongoing debate over the Second Amendment. Across the country, passionate voices on both sides have taken to the streets, social media, and public forums to express their opinions. Some see the ruling as a victory for constitutional rights, while others worry about the potential impact on public safety and the ability of states to regulate firearms. The ruling sets a new precedent, directly addressing how citizens can acquire firearms and the level of government permission required. Previously, many states enforced strict permitting processes, requiring background checks, training, and official approval before a firearm could be purchased. Now those barriers have been significantly lowered, making it easier for law-abiding citizens to obtain firearms, but also raising questions about oversight and accountability. The court's decision signals a robust interpretation of the Second Amendment, forcing many states to rethink their gun control laws. State legislatures and local governments are now scrambling to review and revise their regulations to comply with the new legal standard, while advocacy groups prepare for further legal battles and public campaigns. Until now, buying a firearm often depended on state-specific permit requirements. These rules varied widely, with some states imposing strict conditions and others adopting a more lenient approach. The patchwork of laws created confusion for gun owners and law enforcement alike, and often led to legal challenges over what was considered reasonable regulation. The court has now declared these permit requirements unconstitutional, creating a more uniform, less restrictive standard across all 50 states. This means that regardless of where someone lives, the process for acquiring a firearm will be much the same, reducing barriers for some but also eliminating safeguards that others considered essential for public safety. This decision is the latest in a series of rulings that have steadily expanded individual gun rights and will require lawmakers and citizens to adapt to a new legal reality. As the nation grapples with the implications, the conversation about balancing constitutional freedoms with community safety is sure to intensify, shaping the future of American society for years to come. The policy struck down is known as the permit-to-purchase system. In several states, this required gun buyers to apply for a special permit from law enforcement before buying a firearm, separate from the standard background check. Supporters saw it as a crucial vetting tool and cooling-off period, while critics argued it was an unconstitutional burden on a fundamental right. The result was a patchwork of regulations. Some states allowed same-day purchases, others required weeks or months of waiting. The Supreme Court's decision erases this disparity, making the process of acquiring a firearm more uniform nationwide. After years of heated legal battles and mounting public pressure, the issue finally reached the steps of the Supreme Court. The nation watched closely as the highest court in the land prepared to weigh in on a question that had divided Americans for generations. Across the country, passionate voices clashed over the meaning and limits of the Second Amendment. Rallies, protests, and heated debates erupted in cities and small towns alike, highlighting the growing division over gun rights and regulation. In 2022, the Supreme Court's Bruin decision set a new, far-reaching standard. Gun laws must be consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. This ruling sent shockwaves through the legal system, forcing courts to re-evaluate decades of gun control measures. Almost immediately, lawsuits sprang up across the country, targeting permit-to-purchase systems and other regulations. Plaintiffs argued that there was no historical precedent for such requirements, challenging the very foundation of modern gun laws. As lower courts issued conflicting rulings, legal uncertainty spread. Some judges struck down long-standing laws, while others upheld them, creating a patchwork of decisions that left citizens and lawmakers confused and frustrated. The political climate only intensified the conflict. In response to rising gun violence and public outcry, Democratic-led states moved quickly to pass stricter gun laws, hoping to protect their communities and set an example for the nation. Meanwhile, Republican-led states doubled down on expanding gun rights, enacting laws that made it easier for citizens to carry firearms and resist federal regulation. The ideological divide between states grew wider with each passing year. The result was a confusing and often contradictory patchwork of laws, with each state charting its own course. What was legal in one state could be a crime in another, leaving Americans uncertain about their rights and responsibilities. This legal and cultural divide deepened, fueling mistrust and anxiety on both sides. The nation seemed more polarized than ever, with gun policy at the heart of the conflict. Recognizing the urgent need for clarity, the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, aiming to resolve the inconsistency and provide a definitive answer that would apply to all Americans, regardless of where they lived. The nation held its breath as the justices deliberated, knowing that their decision would shape the future of gun policy for generations to come. The Supreme Court's ruling marks a pivotal turning point in America's ongoing battle over gun rights and regulation, setting the stage for the next chapter in this deeply divisive debate. The Supreme Court's majority opinion found permit-to-purchase laws failed the historical test set by Bruin. The court concluded there was no American tradition of requiring law-abiding citizens to get a government permit before buying a firearm. Modern permit systems, with lengthy applications and waiting periods, were seen as prior restraints on a constitutional right. The majority argued that public safety concerns cannot override a clear constitutional command, especially when less burdensome alternatives exist, like the federal background check system. Dissenting justices argued for flexibility and innovation in gun safety laws, but the majority's historical test now stands as the law of the land. This ruling fundamentally changes how states can regulate gun purchases. Gun rights advocates celebrated the decision as a victory for constitutional liberty. They argue the right to bear arms is fundamental, not a privilege to be granted by the government. Permit requirements, they say, impose unfair delays and costs, especially harming those in urgent need of self-defense or with limited means. Supporters also contend that permit systems are ineffective at stopping criminals who obtain guns illegally regardless. Eliminating these systems, they believe, ensures equal access to gun rights for all law-abiding citizens. The focus, they argue, should be on enforcing existing laws against prohibited persons, not creating new hurdles for responsible gun owners. Gun control advocates see the ruling as a dangerous setback. They argue permit-to-purchase laws are common-sense measures that save lives by allowing for thorough background checks and cooling-off periods. Studies, they say, show these laws reduce gun trafficking and impulsive violence. Supporters believe states should have the authority to tailor gun laws to local needs, and that the court's decision strips away this flexibility. They fear the ruling will make it easier for dangerous individuals to obtain firearms, increasing gun violence. For them, permits are a reasonable safeguard, not an infringement. The Supreme Court's decision immediately changes the landscape for gun owners and state governments, marking a significant shift in how firearm purchases are regulated across the country. This ruling is expected to have far-reaching consequences, not just for individuals looking to buy guns, but also for the way states manage and enforce their own gun laws. In states that previously required a permit to purchase, buyers will now only need to complete the standard federal background check, eliminating the need for a separate state-issued permit. This means that in many places, the process to buy a firearm will become more streamlined and accessible, potentially increasing the number of people eligible to purchase guns. The process is now faster and less complicated, especially in states where permits once took weeks or even months to obtain. For many gun owners, this will mean less waiting and fewer bureaucratic hurdles. However, it also raises questions about how states will ensure responsible gun ownership without the extra layer of screening that permits provided. It's important to note that all other federal and state restrictions on gun ownership remain in effect. Background checks, age requirements, and prohibitions for certain individuals, such as those with felony convictions or restraining orders, are still enforced. The ruling does not create a free-for-all. It simply removes one step from the process in certain states. State legislatures now face the task of repealing or amending their permit laws to comply with the Supreme Court's decision. Some may look for new ways to regulate gun sales within the boundaries of the law, possibly introducing alternative measures to address public safety concerns. This could lead to a patchwork of new regulations as states adapt to the changing legal landscape. Law enforcement agencies will begin dismantling existing permit systems, redirecting resources and staff to other enforcement priorities. This transition may take time, and agencies will need to update their procedures and inform the public about the new requirements. For gun owners and dealers, staying informed is crucial. As the rules change, there may be confusion and uncertainty about what is required and what is no longer necessary. Educational efforts, both from government agencies and advocacy groups, will play a key role in helping everyone understand the new system. It's also important to remember that this ruling only affects pre-purchase permits. Other regulations, such as those governing concealed carry, assault weapon bans, or magazine capacity limits, are not impacted and remain subject to ongoing legal debates and court challenges. The landscape of gun laws in America continues to evolve, and both gun owners and lawmakers will need to stay alert as new developments arise. This Supreme Court decision is a pivotal chapter, not the end in America's gun debate. States will comply, but political battles over new gun laws are certain to continue. Lawmakers may pursue alternative regulations, like training requirements or red flag laws, likely leading to more court challenges. The Supreme Court is considering other major Second Amendment cases, so the legal landscape will keep evolving. This ruling highlights the power of the court and the importance of judicial appointments. The debate over balancing rights and regulation is far from over. It's entering a new phase. For Americans on all sides, the conversation about guns, rights, and safety continues, shaped by law, politics, and the courts.